Let's go.
All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our second Loden Sports Outlier Session. My name is Matt Pajak. I am a co-founder of Loden Sports. We have 5 more exciting guests lined up after this, so check out our blog for more info and set those calendar reminders, and we'll see you right back here next week. Quick plug on what Loden Sports is. We are the affordable human performance data provider. We use non-exclusive objective athletic evaluations for the purposes of tracking athletic development, informing athlete health, and identifying outliers. Our evaluations are non-sport, gender, skill level, or age specific. They are for anyone and everyone, just like these outlier sessions. If you are interested in learning more and getting in touch, visit our website at lodensports.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Loden Sports, and read our blog, which is also available through our website. The outlier sessions have been created as a way to bridge the gap and create a connection between the aspiring and the achieving. All of our guests have a niche at the highest levels of baseball and are an outlier in their own right. And we want to take some time to talk about long-term athlete development, LTAD, in the context of their experiences, their processes for taking care of themselves, and get them a little bit more about their personal interests as well. With all that being said, we know there are so many other ways you could be spending your time, and we want to thank you for being here with us. We hope you enjoy the outlier sessions. We hope you find value in them. We hope you're able to take something you learn and apply it in your life. This session will be broken up into 2 parts. For the first part, we have a series of questions for our guests. For the second part, we'll invite you all to join the conversation. And when we get there, we'll walk you through exactly how to do that. And now I'd like to introduce the mayor of Jacksonville, Florida, longtime coach turned Boston Red Sox area scout and Portillo's superfan, Alonzo Wright. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. This is don't tell any of the other guests, but this is the one I was most looking forward to.
You get this on a daily basis. We talk a lot. So, yeah. What do you got for me?
Well, first off the bat, we need a little background on yourself, where you're from, the professional path that led you to scouting. I mean, you can kind of touch on it a little bit. I know we're going to get into that a little bit more, but just high level, where you coached, high school, travel ball, college, and then kind of where you're living at now.
Gotcha. Well, I'm originally from Jacksonville, Florida. Quick story on how I got into this journey into professional baseball. It's probably not conventional at all. My playing career ended my junior year. I started off, I went to Shaw University out of high school. And after my freshman year, I transferred to the University of West Florida. Sat out my sophomore year because of transfer rules. And then my junior year, I was cut. So the Alonzo Wright story is supposed to be over at this point. Kind of had to figure out life. So I wanted to help people. So that was my passion. Outside of sports, I just wanted to give back and help people. And I was kind of drawn to the mind. So I went into the mental health field. And after grad school, moved back home. And I was home and I had some time. So I was a therapist and I had some free time. And I felt like there was a problem that I could be addressing. There was the baseball fields in the community that I grew up in were covered and being converted to football fields. So the opportunities to play baseball were diminishing. So I said, hey, Zoe, you can do this. So I decided to spark some interest and kind of be a catalyst for change. So I started doing free baseball camps every Saturday. No intentions to coach at all. Just kind of to give hope. And after a few Saturdays, a few parents came up to me and they were like, hey, we want you to coach this team. And I was kind of like, nah. My purpose is to do these camps, not to coach. But I appreciate that. Few Saturdays continued and they continued to present that to me. And they presented it was like, we won't have a team if we don't have a coach. So I got a big heart. I like to believe I do. So I said, yeah, I'm going to do it. But just this once. I'm going to do this and then I'm going to go back to the camps. So I ended up coaching a bunch of kids, ages of 6 to 10. It was a 10U team. None of them have never played baseball before. And it was a great experience because I had never coached before. So it was a good mix. So we both had our first go at it that season. So the season finished. I'm saying all the season finished. And I went back to my original plan of not coaching and planning to do the free camps. Turns out one of the parents that I knew knew an AD that was looking for a high school coach. They called me, and initially I said no, which you'll find is the theme. I'll say no a lot. After thinking it over, though, I took on the challenge. It was a rough program. They hadn't won in 3 years. So I took the job. People called me crazy, laughed at me, thinking, you can't change that program. Like, it's doomed. We had minimal success. We won 10 games, 2 years, had 2 district tournament wins. That was the highlight of the tenure. But I felt like we did make some changes in that program. I would probably still be there today if I didn't get this call. So the AD calls me, he pulls me into the office and says, hey, because I wasn't getting played because I was a school board employee. So they wanted to use the stipend for baseball to hire a football coach. So they did that, and they went a different direction on the coaching where, and I was like, wow, man, like I was crushed. Like that, I don't know, that took me back. And I was, that still kind of hurt to this day because of the impact that I had at that moment. I felt like I needed to be there. That was my plans. So I got that call. And a few days later, another school reached out to try to schedule a game. I told them the situation. And before we got off the call, they offered me a job. And from that point, I think I've been climbing ever since in this coaching field in baseball in general. So from that led to me a coaching job at Trinity. And then from Trinity, I went to Florida State College at Jacksonville, a junior college in Florida. And then from there, I left to go to Eastern Kentucky. And from that point, I got an opportunity at Tulane University, and which leads me to where I am today with the Boston Red Sox as an area scout up in the upper Midwest.
Yeah, and I don't want to take all of that you just explained because it's pretty amazing and summarize it, but I'm going to do that anyway. Let's call it do and doors open. Because that's what you did. You saw something, you went out, you did it, and a bunch of doors opened. And I'm sure there's more doors to open as you continue on because, obviously above and beyond the impact that you have in the baseball world, a lot of it comes down to the human element. So we'll get into that a little bit more later on. But, before we really get going, I do want to quickly throw out that similar to last week, we'll be sending out an email in a few days for all attendees to claim their free POAP NFT for the session. For those of you who aren't familiar, a POAP is a proof of attendance protocol or simply a digital ticket stub. If you're interested in receiving the email, fill out the Google form that we've posted in the Outlier Session chat. So moving along, we do want to hit on some LTAD related topics with Zoe. Loden Sports is in the process of building an LTAD, long-term athlete development guide that will be inclusive, holistic, and philosophical reference for developing athletes of all sports and levels of aspiration. In our eyes, everyone is an athlete. Yes, even the people on this chat that aren't actively playing. We all can and should find enjoyment in sports in a number of different ways for the entirety of our lives. So I have some history with Zoe on this topic, emotional well-being, and the importance of gratefulness. There are little things we can do every day to bolster our emotional well-being. It's like a muscle. It needs to be trained. So we did this last week with Corbin. This exercise is something you can do today and every day. Zoe, teeing you up, what are 3 things you're grateful for today?
Ooh, okay. So combo for the first one would be the Black & Decker old school coffee pot and Folgers for the cup of coffee that I'm drinking now. I'm appreciative. I love my coffee pot, but that's a daily thing. I'm always thankful for that. I'm thankful also for J Food and Liquor. I've been hunting for this particular brand of bourbon, Eagle Rare, and I was finally able to find it after like 11 months. Me and the guy in our Four Corners, Vaughn Williams, have been talking and trying to find this, and it's always out of stock. And today, rewind 2 weeks ago, Jay told me that he would get a bottle in on this Thursday, and sure enough, he got one in. So I was thankful for that. And I'm also thankful for everybody that's taking the time just to be here and just to hear me talk. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. I'm going to piggyback off you on that last one. Definitely a huge shout out to everyone that's in the room right now, and shout out to you for being on.
Yeah.
Obviously, we all work with 24 hours a day, so take a little bit of that time and listen to us go back and forth on whatever we talk about. It means a lot. So that's going to be one. Number two, last night I had a 15-minute connector in Nashville on my flight back across the country, and Southwest somehow got my bags on the second plane, even though I had to sprint from plane to gate. So shout out to the Southwest workers on that. And number three is when you get stuck in a middle seat, but you're on one of those planes that has the bendable headrest, so that you can kind of lay back, fall asleep, and not worry about falling over on the person to the left or the right of you. Also had that on the second plane, and was able to just kind of lock myself in and fall asleep for that last flight. So yeah, good stuff.
Okay.
The next element of our LTAD that I want to hit on is ignition. Another part of our LTAD that I want to introduce here is this concept of ignition. It's a key pillar to athlete development. It's what lights the fire for the developing athlete to want to participate in sports. It's what keeps that fire lit. So ignition usually happens in the subconscious through positive experiences in sports. I think this one's really interesting because normally we talk about it in the context of an athlete, but we're going to talk about it in the context of Alonzo Wright, who's currently working in sports, but isn't necessarily, actively, professional athlete per se. So parents, teachers, and coaches are responsible for shaping the developmental environment. Zoe, for you, who, and it could be one person, and it could be many in your life, helped drive the interest in the sport of baseball when you were younger?
For me, I'm the youngest of four boys. My older brother, he was physically gifted. He could do everything. He's a three-sport star. He made it look easy. It was easy to idolize him growing up. And everybody, and all my siblings, we did as well. He played football, so we all played football. He played basketball, so we all played basketball. He played baseball, so we all played baseball. So growing up, we were just trying to model ourselves after him. He was our hero. Partially, the reason we kind of played sports is to not be home, kind of keep us busy and not be bored. There was no video game system in the house or cable TV or cell phone to keep us busy. So it was organized sports, or it was neighborhood. We were playing football, or we'll go up to the park to go play basketball, or we were racing bikes or sprinting, just finding ways to compete. So that, I guess, that initial ignition for me came from looking up to my older brother. I think from a coaching standpoint, a coach that inspired me was this guy named Coach Bill. He wasn't the greatest coach in the world, and he probably wasn't even the nicest. He was a terror on the field, notorious for yelling. Picture Suge Knight if he was coaching. But I'll tell you, regardless of how angry he was, I knew he cared. If I missed practice, he would call my house. He would check on me. If I needed a ride, which I often did, he would give me one. If I hadn't eaten, he would always check on me to make sure I was okay. And it wasn't just me. I know he did that with other players as well. So for him, he inspired me. I gave him everything I had. And if I didn't, I would feel guilty. I owed that to him to just empty the tank. And after he finished coaching me those 2 years, he still was checking in on me. I still have a lot of respect for Coach. And probably I'm still afraid of him to this day. So
that's pretty funny.
Those are the two.
Yeah. And I think, you hit on a lot of different things there because, I think especially in the amateur baseball environment right now, a lot of the focus is on old school, new school teaching principles. And, this coach, can't teach this and he can't teach that and whatever. But there's so many different elements that go into a coach that can make a coach great. in a lot of different ways. And I think you hit on that right there, where, he might not have been the best baseball coach, or he might not have even really been a baseball coach at all, but he was a coach and a leader and someone who was able to drive you and get the best out of you every day. So, shout out to Coach Bill.
Absolutely.
And then, you said your brother was a multi-sport star.
Yeah.
How'd you end up in baseball? Did that end up being his specialization, or could it have been any other sport for you? Why baseball?
He went to school for baseball. For me, I think football. It was either football or baseball. Basketball, it passed me by quick at an early age. I'll be honest with you. And football slowly did too when I realized physically I wasn't going to be 6'3", 215 or anything like that. And as the game sped up, my feet went the other way. They kind of slowed down. So it was baseball for me all the way. Like I knew like that I was going to be involved in some fashion from probably middle school.
That's awesome. So when your feet slowed down, where did you end up playing on the diamond?
I still played up in the middle. Like I was a middle guy. Moved to center field when I went to college. I wasn't but football, like it slowed down to a point to where like I was just below average. So
yeah, they're yelling at you from the sideline, pursuit, and you're like, Coach, I'm taking angles, I just can't get there.
Mm-hmm.
Too wide.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's funny. All right, so I know you're a parent. You got Andy. Do you see your son taking a baseball or something else? Have you consciously done anything to try and get him interested in sports? Kind of on the topic of being a parent and kind of trying to figure out strategic ways to ignite. You want to talk about that a little bit?
So I did my best, I feel like, to try to ignite that within him. Our first attempt was we were going to go build motor skills with soccer. So like at 2 and 3 years old, we put him in the soccer to see if he would gravitate towards it, and just to kind of get the body moving and build some fine motor skills with him. He didn't gravitate towards it. So we were like, okay, that's fine. We did like some fast class, like some action sports class with him to try to get, it was like basketball 1 week, soccer 1 week, baseball 1 week, whatever, volleyball, hockey. They'll go through all of them. And he didn't gravitate to any of them. So we tried T-ball, and, he didn't gravitate towards that at all. Like for him, I think he kind of sees like baseball is my thing. And I keep hoping like down the road that he'll be like, Dad, hey, I'm ready to play. Honestly, I used to try to bribe him with things that he really liked. When he was like 5 or 6, he's 8 now. To like, hey, if you play catch and you catch 10 in a row, I'll get you some Robux and you can go for it. He'll do it, but nothing really sparked in him to like go play competitively. I keep hope alive. He's left-handed, so I'm still waiting around, but I don't think it's gonna. I think it's probably gonna be a no-go for him.
It's kind of interesting. Sean Campbell's son is 8, going on 9 in March, and up until just a couple months ago, he really had no interest in watching sports or anything necessarily like that. And all of a sudden, he got the bug. And now all he wants to do is go out in the yard and play catch and swing the bat and turn on football on Sundays and all that. So don't be surprised if the switch just flips on one day, because I'm not.
You just gave me hope.
Yeah.
You just gave me hope, man. We ready. No. Whenever he's ready, I'll be ready for him to go whatever he wants to do. Honestly, he's got to find his path, and it might not be in sports at all. And I just want him to be happy. So
yeah, I think there's so many different things out there today, and a lot of it, a lot of us older people don't quite understand what exactly is going on. in terms of the interest and all that. But, there's so many different ways you can go. And I think it's more or less just finding an interest in something and pursuing it, whatever that may be. So,
yeah.
No, that's good stuff. So let's move away from the LTAD a little bit. Let's talk about your journey. I know we kind of hit the high level overview on it, but I kind of want to dig into the weeds a little bit more. Obviously, we met a few years back while I was at USA Baseball. You're a high school coach in Jacksonville, Trinity Christian, JC Flowers, Austin Martin. Who else you had on that team? You had the kid that went to Louisiana Lafayette. Yeah, take us through the past 5 or so years of your life as you've kind of maneuvered from Trinity Christian to Florida State College at Jacksonville to EKU, Tulane, and now at Red Sox.
The journey to where I am now. I think if you talk about my experiences and the ups and downs and how I got there, I think the value of the no's that I've had on that journey, like the no's on my part and by other people as well, that kept me in those situations kind of to learn. And I felt like each stop had a purpose. And don't think like I'm on here saying that I was prophesizing this, but no. Like in hindsight, it had a purpose. I felt like, so like when I was at FSCJ, I applied for jobs and I was offered jobs. Neither worked out, but they turned out to be like the right no for me. And it allowed me to continue to grow and learn at FSCJ. So when I was at FSCJ, in hindsight, my goal and my purpose there was kind of conquering the fear. I feared that I wouldn't be a good enough coach at the 4-year. I was just good enough for the junior college level, but I wouldn't be a good coach at the 4-year by my standards. And for a moment, I let that cripple me and kind of being complacent. So me being there and some of the no's that I had that kept me in that situation allowed me to gain confidence, kind of trust my abilities, push through, and kind of address some of the weaknesses I had as a coach. So just basically overcoming that fear was that time period from when I was at FSCJ. And when I left, I left to go to EKU under Coach Thompson, who took a chance on me. I took a chance on myself as well. It was like a leap of faith. Like I quit a paying job, $60,000 a year. I left my family behind and I just bet on myself. I didn't make any money. I had a full calendar year of savings to survive off of, but that was it. I was going to bet on myself and I was going to make the best of this. If I was going to do it, that's when I was going to do it. So I went out. Side story. I took the job at EKU. I had 2 weeks to go find a place. The person who I had a coaching buddy who agreed to let me. He had an extra room, so he was going to let me stay there. Well, I accepted the job, and then he turned out and backed out on the deal. So I had to find a job. I had to find a place to stay in 2 weeks. Reached out to my buddy Tyler Bender. And without a doubt, without any hesitation, he said, "I got a room for you. You can come stay here." And this was in Williamsburg. Richmond, Kentucky is about an hour and 15 minutes away. So it was a commute. It was a doable commute. So it made it do it. So it was a lot of uncertainties going into that experience. But I knew in my heart, like, if I got that experience, like I can open doors. Like, I didn't know what, I didn't know when, I could just do it. I knew I could do it. I can create it. So that happened while I was at EKU. COVID hits, and in my heart, I was like, "This doesn't change my trajectory. I'm still on pace. Things are still going to open up, and I'm still going to make something happen." Imagine trying to, I guess, create these things during that time. You're either going to be like ultra confident in yourself, or you're going to be delusional, right? I feel like life can reward both. Fortunately. I might have been more on the delusional side, but it worked out. So FSCJ was kind of overcoming fear, and EKU was my leap of faith, which led me to Tulane. Tulane had an opening. Izio left for Charleston Southern. Coach Jewett gave me a call. I was back home because it was COVID natural. I was in my driveway. I remember talking to him. Like, for me at that time, like, it was a no-brainer. It was no brainer for me. Like as soon as I got that call, I was like, this is it. Prior to this, like I had to decline some other interviews and some jobs that I felt like were not better experiences. They were just jobs. So I felt like this one right here was a better experience, and I would be better off in life, learning and being in that environment. Tulane was an unbelievable place, and love New Orleans, love Coach Jewett, Ullman, Latham, Curtis Akey, all elite individuals, knowledgeable in their respective fields. And I had in my plans, I had planned to be there for 2 years. And again, I turned down 2 paying jobs that fall. And the lesson I learned there, it's not on your time. It's on God's time. So I think he led me to where I am today. Because I'd probably still be one toe in, one toe out, trying to pursue a dream. But I wouldn't trade my path with anybody. Honestly, I appreciate everything that I had to go through, and every unknown and uncertainty and dark path that I had to walk down. So,
yeah, well, that whole journey in the past couple of years, you got a rainbow in your closet. From the blue wave to the green wave to the Red Sox. So, just kind of talking about that. and you hit on a lot of it. But like good things taking time, and effort and support and trust, and a lot of times a fair amount of luck. And you kind of hit on a whole bunch of that. Kind of going back to that theme that we talked about earlier, doing doors open. I think it's kind of important to bring to light that, only a select few people get to skip all of what you went through on the way up. And that for a lot of people, that's what it looks like. It's a lot of, turning down this opportunity for that and trusting your gut and, really being confident in yourself. But you really can't do that unless you have, I'm going to go back to that, what I just said a couple lines ago, but support, a support system. So whether that be your family, or I think, even more importantly is finding that mentor that's walked the path, or that's in the same realm as you, because, I think we can all speak for it. We all have family members that are very supportive of what we do and the choices that we make, but a lot of them aren't in the day-to-day of this is what our world looks like. So, I know Chip Lawrence of the Padres, national cross-checker, is a mentor for you. What kind of role has he played in your journey? And anybody else, on the baseball side specifically, that's kind of helped brace you as you make these, leaps of faith from, Florida State College at Jacksonville to EKU and on to Tulane, and then, ultimately getting to the Red Sox.
I'll be honest, it's been many hands helping me, but I'll touch and address the Chip Lawrence. He was the first scout that I met that looked like me. Being that, had its effect. He was like the first, and truly he was the first one to believe in me and kind of lit a fire in me. From our first meeting, like he encouraged me to a point to like I wouldn't be here without him. Like he did me so many favors by not giving me a handout, not making it easy for me to get a job, and just holding me accountable. Like he pushed me to be better. Like whenever I think I was close and like I thought I had it figured out, like he would challenge me even more. And like I'm not here if I don't meet him many moons ago. Still to this day, he looks out for me and he'll make sure that I'm prepared to walk in whatever role I am. The accountability and the direction he's provided, like and metaphorically, like he's taught me to fish, basically. Other individuals, there's so many people that have given me a hand that pulled me up, and not that hand out, but a hand up and pulling me up in this journey. Just I don't want to leave anybody out, but Edwin Thompson, who's at Georgetown, Travis Jewett, like they both did things that they didn't have to do, and took risks, and provided and opened that door for me. But there's so many. I don't want to leave anybody out though. All of my friends and peers in the game that that I confide in and bounce things off of on a day-to-day basis to try to like improve myself. So it's a lot of pieces that kind of help me get to where I am and who I am.
Yeah, it's crazy because if you look at a resume, it's so personal. It's so just you, just me, just whoever's resume it is. But every step of the way is such a team effort. And that's why it's so important, whether it's in your professional career or as an athlete or in whatever, road you choose to walk in life, to have a really strong, sturdy support group and to diversify that support group. Like we said before, the family aspect of it is huge. Your friends supporting you, that's huge. But, for you, you speak on Chip, you speak on Edwin, Jewett, having those types of people in your life. And I know there's so many more because you've impacted so many people on a day-to-day basis, and I'm sure they've impacted you, right back. And that just, it makes it a whole lot easier to make those, uncertain decisions in life. So, I guess if there's anything that we get out of this little bit here for anyone listening, really appreciate that support group that you have, grow that support group, and cling to it, make sure they're appreciated. So this next one, I feel comfortable talking about it with you, and I know that you'll, kind of open up to it a little bit, because I know a lot of people, when ego gets in the way, and that's not really something that I'm particularly concerned about with you. I've known you long enough to know that ego isn't really a barrier in a conversation. But I want to talk about some of the positions, and you don't have to call them out specifically, that you've interviewed for along the way that you didn't get. Because there's no glory in that, and it's not openly advertised because people only tweet and promote their successes. We all know that. But rejection is a part of everyone's life. So I always felt like you did a really good job of keeping a level head, refocusing, and staying the course. Just in the conversations that we had, I interviewed for this position, or I interviewed for that position. I knew that you didn't get it, but you didn't let that throw you off course. And of course, you didn't go out and tweet like, "Hey, I interviewed with so-and-so and I didn't get it." No one does that. So talk a little bit about that for everyone who hears this. We've all faced, are facing, and will face rejection in a variety of capacities in our life.
The list of different. I can recall applying for a million volunteer positions and director of baseball ops just to get into at the 4-year level, and so many different coaching positions I couldn't even get a call back for. I've interviewed for 5 different clubs for area scout positions. I've had my fair share of no's and rejections. I like to think like I'm a walking billboard for like fighting failure. As twisted as it may sound, like I'm thankful for the rejections, the failures, the low moments in my life. Like I'm telling you, I'm not who I am today if it weren't for those. Like, you don't become resilient unless you're face to face with some shortcoming, some disappointment, some failure. And I survived all those and kind of still pushing to get through and stay ready for the next one. Cause, I haven't built an immunity to failure by no means, but it's shaped and continues to shape who I am today. So just get that armor ready, stay ready.
Yeah, resilience. That was a key theme in Daily Dose of Zoe for this week. So if anyone in the crowd isn't following Zoe on Twitter, he's a good follow. He hits you with your daily dose of Zoe. Gives you a little kick in the butt every day when you need it. So plug. That's what is it? Alonzo C. Wright?
I think so. Yeah.
Alonzo C. Wright.
I should know that. That's me, but I should know my own handle.
Yeah, you should know your handle. Not on Instagram, so unless you meet Zoe in person, you're not going to get to see that beautiful face. But let's I know Cole Conley's in the audience, so he's not super privy to what you do on a day-to-day basis. Just kidding, Cole. Let's talk about your day job for a bit.
Okay.
When did you know you wanted to be a scout for a professional baseball organization?
Okay. Yeah, this goes back to my relationship with Chip. I think he lit that candle within me, and kind of gave me hope that, one day I could thrive in this role. I know I wanted to be in baseball, and I thought coaching honestly was the only way. So I put myself in that box. And I thought coaching was it. So I feel like I was really good at identifying talent and the evaluation side. So the recruiting gave me that first day of school feeling, like when you got your outfit laid out, new J's for So Cold, and you're ready for that next day. Are those butterflies from a first date or something like that? That's what the process and the part of the game that I love was like for me. Seeing a player progress and develop over the years honestly wasn't as rewarding. There was some reward, but I didn't get that euphoria that I felt like going out to recruit or talking to a recruiter or anything like that. And this goes back. I remember a conversation I was having with Chip, and he was like, "Hey, everybody's got gifts. Like yours could be in development of players, or yours could be in the evaluation of the player. Like you just gotta know and own your gifts." Well, you can guess which way my time and kind of effort was balanced. Like I think from that point, I would ultimately be in this role. I just didn't know when.
Yeah, and I know just from our conversations in the past, you had a number of different opportunities present themselves to interview, and going back to a couple questions ago, it's not easy to be a finalist for an area scout position with one of the 30 MLB clubs. It's just not easy, and when you get there, like even if you don't get selected, that doesn't mean you're not capable of doing the job. It's just, it's something that everybody wants to do. So I do want to talk a little bit about how the opportunity with the Red Sox presented itself, and how you ultimately landed that position, because I think it's important for anybody who's pursuing a path in baseball to kind of understand that, like, there's no guarantees, even when an opportunity presents itself, that, you're going to be the guy.
Yeah. Honestly, still to this day, I don't know how my name got in the mix with the Red Sox. I just know from my account what happened. And I'm transparent here. I wasn't as confident going into it because I didn't know anybody in the organization. And usually if you don't have anybody fighting for you, like you're fighting an uphill battle, right? So like, I was like, I don't know anybody. So let's rewind. I'll tell you how I had. I was coaching at Tulane, and I had got a text, and I still have it in my phone today, right? Asking if I wanted to interview for a position. And now, mind you, I had turned down 2 positions already, so I wasn't job hunting. So I went to the head guy, Jewett, and I went to him. I was like, "Hey, did you put my name in for a job?" So he was like, "No. I didn't." And I was like, but he was like, "You needed to interview for it." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to interview for it." So 10 interviews later, over a 2-week span, I was hired. And I got to tell this story. So honestly, I'll tell you, but the timing of it couldn't have been more divine. So let's backtrack. I quit my job and I took the job and went to EKU. I had a year's worth of savings, right? Well, COVID hit and kind of put a strain on like my expected due date for being broke. And that due date was November 1st. And I remember this. And this all transpired September 29th. When I got that text, I signed the contract October 15th. But from August to October, I had been applying for every job you can imagine. I'm talking Walmart, Family Dollar. I did Postmates. I couldn't find a job. I was struggling and I was panicking because I knew my due date for being broke was November 1st, right? So I got offered the job on the 13th. I also got offered a job from Lululemon on the 12th, which I was really excited about. But I needed a job. So because I needed to pay the rent November 1st. I signed my contract on the 15th. They paid me on the 15th by mistake. It was an accounting error. So they just skipped the check, my next check, but it didn't matter because I had enough to pay November rent and I was okay. So like the timing of it, if you don't believe in anything greater than you, I can't help you understand like my feelings during that time. Like the circumstances that led to me being hired, like Oscar nominee, like screenplay worthy, man. I was going to be evicted in November at some point because I didn't have enough money. I was done. But that's kind of how the opportunity with the Red Sox happened on my end of it, and the things I was going through personally in my life at that time.
So, how did the opportunity with the Red Sox present itself? Answer: divine intervention.
I'm gonna be short. I'm gonna shorten up my answer. I'm getting lengthy here.
Yeah. God looked down and he said, "All right, this guy's been working hard enough. He's out here grinding. You know, most days he's a good person.
Yeah.
Let's throw him a bone." So, I think most people, and even though I've never scouted, obviously I've got a lot of friends in the scouting industry. I've got a pretty good handle on what an area scout does, the different types of scouts. I think most people in here, most people that'll listen to this probably won't be familiar with the day-to-day responsibilities of a scout, kind of how the job changes depending on the time of the year. So let's talk about that a little bit. You don't have to go too far in the weeds, but just kind of first off, what is an area scout and what's your area?
Okay. There is no like day to day. It seems like it's just one long day, honestly, like just never ending. You're essentially the governor of your territory, basically. I have the upper Midwest. I have Illinois, Iowa, Indiana, Missouri, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. And you're responsible for the players in the area, knowing who's who, and getting the evaluation side and the administrative side completed on the guys that you have identified on your pref list. And if they're priority guys, making sure you communicate and schedule for the regional and above staff to get eyes on them. You're kind of like, you're the expert of your area, knowing the coaches and players better than anybody else. Different times a year requires different demands. So if you break it up, summer, fall, winter, spring, the day-to-day looks a lot different. The summer, you're hitting the summer collegiate leagues, the premier high school events that kind of bleed into the fall, which goes into the scout days and fall games for the colleges. And with all that, you're building your pref list and targets for the spring and so forth. That's kind of a gist of it.
Yeah, so obviously you're an area scout and you've got your area and you kind of described what that means. And before we talked about Chip, national cross-checker. For the people out there who might not be familiar with the scouting hierarchy and kind of how the whole thing works, like you're the area scout, you're the boots on the ground in the area, you see a player you like, what is the process for that guy once you like him before he's ultimately in consideration for selection, and just kind of talk about the different types of scouts that have to come in and see this player.
All right, so what the different types of scouts? So you got the scouting director. Below him, you have the assistant scouting director. In the office as well, you have assistant to amateur scouting. And then you have a layer of cross-checkers, national cross-checkers, regional cross-checkers, special assignment scouts, national. You have the national hitting guy that only covers the bats for the East Coast or West Coast, depending on some clubs do it a little different, and you have a scout that just do arms, the top arms in the country, and then you have us, the area scouts. If I identify a guy and turn him in, and once it hits the system, if I put a value on him or a grade on him that sends off a red flag in the office that this guy needs to be cross-checked. And then from there, it's usually the regional cross-checker. He'll come in and he'll see him. If it's a bat, then, the next person will probably see him. Either be a special assignment for us or our national hit guy. He'll come in and cross-check as well, and then so forth. And it just depends on their schedule and where they're at in the country. If, scouting director or assistant scouting director are able to get out to see them.
Cool. Yeah, I guess last question, specifically on the job itself. I kind of want to dive into like what qualifies a player for a follower report. I know that there's, uh, obviously you've got all the rankings from the third party event operators, and you cover 5 or 6 states. You're one human being. What does a player have to do to get a look from an area scout? And I'm not talking about Texas or Florida or California. I'm talking about, an area like yours where it's so big, covers so much territory, and, again, you're one person. So, there
Yeah.
might be a top 10 list in the state of Illinois and a top 10 list in the state of Iowa and a top 10 list in the state of Missouri, but you're not going out and seeing all of those kids. You're only going out and
Mhm.
seeing the players that qualify for a follower report. So just kind of
Yeah.
talk about what you really look for there.
Yeah. The report is I've come to that conclusion. Like, I, Alonzo Wright, am satisfied with you in our organization. Basically, I will draft you. Basically, the follow is a little different. So for me, like, different times, my focus is a little bit more demanding as we get into the spring. But let's say entering your draft year, I kind of, in my personal approach is to pull the microscope kind of back and be a lot more optimistic, because players improve and they get better. So I don't write off anybody because they don't have now stuff. That'd be kind of foolish. So basically, what I do is I'll do a quick idea of athleticism early. If you're an athletic, you're likely to have another tool, whether it be the ability to defend, cover ground, range, arm strength, or power. You're likely to have some other tool. It's not 100% guaranteed, but it's a shortcut. And most importantly, as the game speeds up, you're able to get the body in position to hit, throw, and run. As the game speeds up, you're able to make those adjustments. From there, I go for the body. Like, those are two things that easily you can identify: is the athleticism and the body. How much left runway is left on that body? Where it project? Is it narrow? Is it ability to hold some weight? And so forth. Is it present strength, but wiry or whatever? I think the most important thing is like, what can this player do? Is it arm talent? Is it ability to spin? Is it strength, power guy? Does he do things easy and under control? Is he just a performer? Is he an elite runner? Is he just a good defender at a premium position? It's just, what does he do or will do that can hold value in a system? I think we're all looking for something unique, and that unicorn we're all searching for. But I think, like, if you, along that journey of finding that unicorn, you're going to find some big leaguers on the way. But that's just kind of like a summary of like trying to find things that quantify, I guess, a follow for me, getting guys that fit in those areas.
Well, I appreciate that insight because I think it's important for emerging players and their parents to hear. I mean, every year, obviously you're going out there and you're doing the job. You're an expert on this, and so aren't every other scout out there in your area and all across the country. And there's the people that do this year in and year out, but every year it's a fresh crop of parents, it's a fresh crop of players, and they're looking at the third party rankings and they're probably wondering, where do I have to be on these rankings to, qualify for a look from a scout or anything like that. They're completely in the dark. So I think that was good insight.
Yes, you do not have to be on any rankings to quantify a look for me. That'll be the last thing I check regarding rankings or anything. I actually look at that just for humor a lot of the times, honestly.
Yeah. So there you go. You heard it straight from Zoe. Zoe only speaks the truth. Sometimes he looks at the rankings just to get a good chuckle. But moving away from the job itself, you're an important face in the game. Baseball has been facing a decline in representation from the African American community on and off the field. You talked about it a little bit earlier in that when you saw Chip, it was the first time you saw someone that was like you. Let's talk about that a little bit, what you've experienced and where you see the future heading.
The future. I think as a coach, like I had the responsibility to recruit a diverse roster. Like if you look at the rosters at take pro out of it, like at the college level and even the HBCUs, like the numbers are decreasing. Like some programs do a really good job, but overall, like the numbers are what they are. And I often look at some of these programs and I often wonder like how easy it would be just to include a certain population on their roster, just based on cost of attendance and location. And it baffles me that some of these programs do that. And I think like for us to get the representation in the game, we have to first have players playing at that level to kind of inspire more minority coaches. Like once we get more minority coaches, and it'll start addressing the issues at the college level. And I'm excluding the pro side of it, but at the college level, I think that's where we need to inspire. Like those who go into coaches are usually inspired by other coaches. They were coached by somebody who took an interest or had a passion for it, and they want to emulate how they're inspired just like that, and they want to do the same. Well, if you look at the college game, I hate to get into this topic, but there's no black coaches out there. Outside of the HBCUs, it's limited numbers. We're talking maybe 5, including head coaches and assistant and paid coaches at the level. And it's tough. So I would like to see it heading in a better direction. But I think the solution lies somewhere at the top, where you have better representation on staffs.
Yeah, and I know you don't want to call it out, but sometimes the truth is hard for people to swallow. And if that's what it is, I think you make a really good point, and it's not a quick Band-Aid fix, and I think a lot of people think that, and not just this particular instance, but in a lot of things in the world, everyone thinks you can just throw a Band-Aid on it and keep moving. But to your point, it's going to take some time, and it's going to take a lot of those different things that you talked about to, really at the grassroots level enact change and get things moving in the right direction. So, do you feel like you have an increased responsibility or pressure because on most days you are the only African American scout at the ballpark?
I think it's unique. You look around the ballpark and you may be the only scout. And you look at the roster on the field, you might be the only person that resembles yourself at the game. So it's kind of hard not to notice. As scouts, we kind of like to blend in. Well, for me, like it's apparent that I'm not blending in at times. I'm gonna be honest with you, because they're looking around like he doesn't have a play. There's nobody that looks like him, so he's not a parent. He's obviously a scout. So I don't think there's so much pressure. I think it's just a responsibility. I got a responsibility to my club, and myself foremost. Every time I'm at the park, I feel like it's an interview anyway. Like I just don't know for what and for when, but we're being evaluated just like the players are. I do think it's my responsibility to kind of inspire that next wave of African American scouts who might be still playing or currently coaching. So like that, I feel like is more so my responsibility versus me being a face at the park.
Well, you got my vote, so keep doing what you're doing, and I think you're doing a really good job of being whatever responsibility that is that you have. I think you're doing a great job with it. So just keep doing what you're doing, keep being you, and yeah, I mean, I can't feel whatever you feel when you go out there, but respect the hell out of you for it. So I do want to shift a little bit, same vein, but looking at the amateur space, there are a number of organizations out there trying to highlight and bring opportunities to amateur ball players from diverse backgrounds. And as we know and we've talked about, some are more effective than others. Who do you think is doing a really good job in that space right now of actually bringing opportunities to diverse young ball player?
Ro Coleman with the Nashville Stars, and he's got a Foundation Empowerment Pursuit in the Nashville area. He's up and coming and doing a really good job. I think Chip Lawrence, I'm gonna keep echoing him with the Pro Youth Foundation in Central Florida. He's going national with the brand of Pro Youth and spreading it around the country. I think Travis Coleman with the Prospect Lab. I think that was perfect for that area. Kenny Fullman with the ACES program out of Chicago. Alex Weich with Minority Baseball Prospects. I think all are different in their approach, but they all have similar goals of opening doors, basically. Those are just a few. There's more other organizations that are probably grassroots and don't have a national, but they're coaching the 6U in an inner city that you don't hear about, and they work 2 jobs or something like that. Those people go without saying. Like, their role is just as important as anybody that's on the national scene.
And look, I haven't been around baseball for more than 5 or 6 years professionally. I think it's really encouraging to see all of these different organizations growing and popping up, just in that short period of time. So I think this entire conversation lends itself really well to a transition to the 22 MLB Draft, where you have Elijah Green, Termar Johnson out of Georgia, Cam Collier, Drew Jones. It's really a pocket of Georgia and Florida there, but they're all receiving first-round buzz. Do you think this class is an outlier in regards to the diversity in the top high school prospects, or do you think this could be part of a larger trend moving forward where we see more of that?
Gotcha. I will omit names because of certain things, but I'll say this class kind of reminds me of the 2017 class, where the first 2 picks were high school kids out of California, and then the 10th overall came out of Kentucky. I think that this class kind of has similar chance to impact at the top of the draft. But for me, I'm telling you, hopefully like the trickle down of this representation happens at the collegiate level. We have more minority players on the roster that have an opportunity to be inspired to be coaches, athletic directors, trainers, whatever, and so forth. There's 30 major league teams, and there's 299 Division I baseball programs out there. Like, let's get the college game going, and that's where the change can happen. But I do like this class and the excitement around the minority players in the top half of the draft. It is exciting, and it is good to see. And they all play the game the right way, and they love it. And it's a lot of passion coming out. I love to see it. So. Not to like downplay them or anything that that class has done, but like for me, like the representation I would want to see is at the collegiate level.
Yeah, and conversation for another day. Major League Baseball's marketing approach. Tip of the cap to Elijah, Termar, Cam, Drew, and I know there's a handful of other guys too. Maybe outside of that first round that'll still have a shot to get some money in this next draft. But, they did their job to get here, and, continuing to do that job to raise their draft stock. And, I would bet that they continue to do their job as they get into either the collegiate game or the pro game and get to the top level. But now, like I said, it's a completely different rabbit hole. And, Major League Baseball's ability to promote these stars and get kids, like you said, at the grassroots level, excited about the game of baseball. That's really you're gonna see the change. So, before we transition into part 2, I do want to briefly touch on the importance of creating good habits. So, like I said before, Zoe, you hit me last week, starting small and building up. I'm still on it. I know you're off it, but just doing something small every single day. Even if you're depositing, 1 cent, it's the aggregation of marginal gains. Corbin Carroll talked about it a little bit last week in a slightly different way. What are some things that you're doing daily to build good habits, and what habits have you created over the years that have laid the foundation for who you are today? Because I know even though you hit me with that last week, there are things that you've been doing that are small on a day-to-day basis that have helped get you to this point?
I tell you, so I think the best habit I do this daily is that I've created is, and this is very corny and cliche or whatever. It has been reading. Reading is like vitamin C for like me and my curiosity and my improvement. So I think my daily habit would be a book. So that's been something that has helped me along the way and kept my brain matter sharp. So that would be my daily good habit that I should.
Yeah, it's cool if it's concise. I mean, reading or whatever it may be, I think you brought up a good point there, curiosity, but also just continuing to learn, and that goes back to something I hit on earlier and just knowing you personally, the lack of an ego. I think ego gets in the way of learning because I think a lot of people that have a pretty sizable ego think they got it all figured out, think that, once they've learned something, they've checked that box and like it's not going to change tomorrow. So, yeah,
absolutely.
I know you've recommended books to me in the past, and I know you.
Tavis Smiley said this in a book, and it's called Fail Off, and it was talking about like what was it called? Oh, I had it. It was about failing. I'll get back to it. I remember it. Oh man, what was it? Oh, A Man Who Views the World. That's what it was. Okay, A Man Who Views the World. This at 50, the same way he did at 20, has wasted like 30 years. So I read that, and that was a while ago. I remember I wrote it down just for this, but I remember like thinking to myself, like, I can't waste like a year. Like I can't be, that's what goes back to me. Like, I don't want to be the same scout I was last year. Like, I just want to continue to be better in some fashion. So not wasting those years and having those same views. I don't want to view everything the same as I did in 2020 and 2019 and so forth.
Well, I don't think you have to worry about that because of all the things that you've done leading up to this point. It would be really hard to shock your system and go the other way and just stop learning. So again, that's the daily building of good habits that kind of snowballs over time. And if you're familiar with an exponential curve on a graph, that's kind of how that stuff works. It starts with a slow build, and then one day you wake up and that thing just goes straight up. So anyway, this has been great. Obviously, we could keep you all night. I'll probably be on the phone with you for an hour tomorrow. But
really, let's go.
Yeah, we know you have work to get to. I do want to open it up for a handful of listeners here to ask some questions, whether it be kids, parents, coaches, whoever's in the room. One last question before we turn it over to the crowd. This is a little cupcake for you. Where are you headed to next?
That's a cupcake. Okay. All right. Honestly, I'm heading back home to Jacksonville for the break. Spend time with family and just kind of unwind. So I'll be in Jacksonville starting the 20th. I'll go there the 21st, 22nd sometime this month. I'll get back to Chicago around the ABCA. So that's my timeline coming up.
Yeah, so for anybody out there who learned a lot about scouting tonight, they do also still have time to celebrate the holidays with their family. So thank you so much for joining us. I think there was a little something for everyone in this conversation. Let's do it again soon.